Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a review of an album from an act named Fractured Truth titled Radiopaque. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on Music B. Now, a couple of things before we begin. One, this is going to be a longer video as I'm going to be reviewing all 18 tracks off of this album. It is a privilege to be able to do so, and I mean it sincerely. Apparently, Mark and Wayne, the two members of this band, they met 30 years ago, and this is basically a culmination of both their collective and their own individual efforts. They've released a lot of music, about 12 albums between them, so feel free to check out the various social medias and the link below in the description if you want to check out more of that. But this is their latest album, Radiopaque, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. And we're going to start with You Tell Me. I'm going to review the first nine tracks today, and I'm going to review the rest tomorrow so that I keep my energy up, because it's quite a big review, even though I'm very excited to listen to this music. We're going to listen through each of these tracks from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Starting with You Tell Me. Let's go. I mean, instantly, with the leads, the organs, drums and bass.
Tell you which way to go. I've been running for so long now, I can't remember how to get back home. I guess I've needed something to feel like myself again. I know I need some direction to be somebody's best friend.
I mean, that's just such a refreshing thing to hear, these dedicated chord progressions and harmonies for each part of the bridge or the verse. You know, the vocals nice and clear in the mix, and amongst everything else, things not being too oversaturated but active enough to retain attention.
I can't tell you what you already know. I've been running for so long now, I can't remember how to get back home.
I mean, like these, I can't remember how to get back home. These lyrics are so straightforward. I love how accessible they are. I think coupled with the relative simplicity of the chord progressions you have in the background, the eighth note grooves on the drums with occasional sixteenths, but just like the broken chords there with the bass line that just keeps things nice and strong. It's just really, it's really effective.
I guess I've needed something to feel like myself again. I know I need some direction to be somebody's good best friend. You tell me, you tell me. You tell me, you tell me. You tell me, you tell me. I don't know, you tell me.
And lead solo.
I guess I've needed something to feel like myself again. I know I need some direction to be somebody's good best friend. You tell me, you tell me. You tell me, you
And additional leads on top.
You tell me, you tell me. I don't know, you tell me. You tell me, you tell me.
Well handled. Well handled. I like a lot about this first track, You Tell Me. I think the simplicity of the hook line and the chorus section is really effective at getting that stuck in your head. I believe that through the word choice, the You Tell Me being repeated, I think that the song is about someone who has lost their way, is trying to make sense of things, and needs someone else's assistance and support. And for us, with Radiopaque, with opaque meaning, I think opaque is like not quite, it's not completely clear. It's like a bit kind of smudged, right? So, you get the feeling that their sort of worldview is kind of flustered a little bit and they're needing that assistance. I think the drama from the chords in the bridge section, especially there there might be some seventh extensions there, a bit of kind of complexity there. There's a sadness and a tendency towards the minor with a lot of these chords. And it's not like a super fast moving track either. It kind of sounds like someone stumbling through the darkness. I think the lead solo is calling out maybe the cries for help or something like that, or for cries for assistance. I like that the leads weren't overplayed or overcomplicated to kind of match the approach of a lot of the different instruments in the arrangement and create a sense of consistency there rhythmically as well as sort of stylistically. And I think the Hammond on top, if I'm not mistaken, is played, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, is played by Rami Jaffe from the Wallflowers and Foo Fighters. I think there was a Hammond on this, if I'm not mistaken, so that they're playing that. That's cool. There are other featured musicians, but I definitely heard the organ in that one. I think it was a nice layering over top there, really pretty kind of tone on top of the guitar, bass, and drum parts there. The production as well is stellar. I'm really happy with how it's sounding there. It's commercial grade. We're going to continue now, I think, with Radio Muse track number 2. I'm wondering if this theme that we have at the moment will continue across the rest of the album. I'm switching to DI'd acoustic guitars, I suppose. Nice and loud.
Cadillac speakers in the backseat of my Omega car, and I feel your sound growing. My soul is floating way up high to the songs of old, and my thrill is on singing. You fade away, but your song's still playing on.
Gorgeous delays there.
Radio, baby. You moved along, but your song's still playing strong. On our stereo, the beat goes on. The beat goes on.
It's kind of like a completely different vibe, isn't it? With the chord changes here, the acoustics, the softness of it. There's almost like a sense of hope to it, I suppose, which is kind of a nice contrast to the previous track.
I press the sound against my face in the air tonight, and I float away, baby, knowing things will turn out right as I drift away, and your song still plays along. You fade away, but your song's still playing on. Our radio, baby. You moved along, but your song's still playing strong on our stereo.
Do we have keys as well as like a cello or a lower string in there for a bit of bass resonance? Because I think the layering of the instruments within this arrangement is wonderful. I like the glow of that low end there. I appreciate the wonder and kind of magic of the synths and how they kind of flutter in their mid to high range on the sides of the stereo field. It's nice to have that alongside the freeform sort of steel string guitar solo.
You fade away, but your song's still playing on. Our radio, stereo. You fade away, but your song's still playing on our radio, baby. You moved along, but your song's still playing strong on our stereo. The beat goes on. Beat goes on our radio, baby.
Was this the same singer for both tracks? It sounded like a different kind of vocal timbre for this one. I could be wrong. Feel free to let me know. But in either way, I think that it was a great choice to have a different track as number 2 in the sense that we had a different arrangement with strings and synths and guitars and like the cello and such. It was quite a magical track. It almost seemed nostalgic. The way the vocals were filtered made it kind of sound like it was going through not like it was sounding of, how do I describe it? The vocals sounded full and like they were professionally, like produced, but it was like, it also sounded like an old school kind of recording, like it had a nostalgic feel to it. Kind of makes me kind of sound like I'm in that room listening to that song even though that person is gone, because I think this is about someone who's maybe in a relationship with someone else and that person left them, but they're still in that place where they're reminded of them, and maybe that's like a safe space for them or something like that, or they never want to give that up. I'm not quite sure. Anyways, it's quite a romantic sounding track. We have the dum dum dum, that kind of octave shift on the guitar the entire time with different phrases on the lead intermittent between the chorus and verse parts. I think it's fantastic. It's heartwarming and it sounds sincere, and the leveling in general is quite nice. I haven't got any real complaints about this album so far. I think it's going to be quite a positive one. They seem to know how to write music, and I think, again, just to comment on the vocals, I liked the vocal fry there. A little bit of that kind of, a bit of glow to it. I've said glow a few times in this conclusion part of this track, but it just sounded nice and warm. Like it sounded like you're at home. I don't know how else to describe that. I kind of adore it. Well done. But we got Passenger, track number 3. More distorted overdriven guitars. Nice.
Hey, what you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. I got a feeling it's real. I got a feeling it's right. I said you don't have to need it. It doesn't make it less real.
It's just rock and roll, isn't it? The faster tempo here, the groove of the drums with lots of different snare fills there, the harmonized vocals. I think this is both singers this time after the first 2 tracks. And the chromatic kind of blues scale followed with the rhythm guitars. It's just dope, man.
What you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. I got a feeling it's real. I got a feeling it's right. I said you don't have to need it. It doesn't make it less real. Hey babe, I'm going for a ride. Don't you wanna be my passenger? Hey babe, I'm going for a ride. Don't you wanna be my passenger?
And that change there. Cowbells?
Hey, come on now. Hey, come on now. Hey, come on now. Hey, come on now. Would you want me on
I mean, there's just no place to pause this there.
baby, begging, begging, baby, begging now? Would you want me on my knees? Baby, begging, begging, baby, begging now. Hey, what you doing?
I mean, like, sorry to interrupt. It's just, I just want to comment. The lead work is ferocious and phenomenal on the guitars. I also like the tom fills. The drumming is so intricate within this track. And there's just, I love the fact that we're not allowing for any pauses, any moments of kind of a, to necessarily be able to think about what we're hearing. It's just very full on, very passionate.
Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. I said you don't have to need it. It doesn't make it less real. What you give is what you get. Once you see, you can't forget. Hey, babe, I'm going for a ride. Don't you wanna be my passenger? Hey, babe, I'm going for a ride. Don't you wanna be my passenger? Hey, babe,
Iteration of theme, nice.
ride. Don't you wanna be my passenger? Hey, come on now. 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 Hey, what you doing now? Hey, what you doing?
Full response, nice.
Hey, what you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Hey, what you doing now? Hey, what you doing now? Come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Now come on, ride with me. Hey, what you doing now? Hey, what
Stunning.
you doing now? Now come on, ride with me.
I'm blown away by this, eh? I mean, like, I'm unsure of whether it was related to this specific album or not. I think it was. Apparently, these guys have worked with like some of the best session musicians around, including the late John Giblin, Leland Sklar, Ryan Hoyle of Collective Soul, Chris Shiflett of Foo Fighters, and others, including Rami Jaffee from the Wolfhouse and Foo Fighters on the Hammond organ. They're working with some really talented musicians. I'm not necessarily sure who's doing what apart from the organ, but I just want to say that the instrumental performances across this album so far have been stellar. The drums in this track were probably one of my favorite parts of this album so far. I love how tight they were. As a drummer, I think most drummers can only really dream of being this tight. It was just such a effortless flowing performance there across the kit, and we explored it and we made it our own. And we talk in the lyrics about begging on your knees and stuff like that. We basically brought the drum kit to its knees. If I'm honest, it was sensational. But the guitar licks as well were fantastic. I appreciate what was going on with the lead passages, both like in the various solo sections, but also in the call and response parts later on. We were layering and developing the track further with an existing motif by having lead vocals and then the guitar thing. I think that's really important to add something new. We did the similar thing with You Tell Me over the last chorus. We had like lead lines over top of that. If you just copy and paste the exact same schematic for every single chorus, it gets a little bit dull in most situations by the third time you hear it. So I'm glad that Fractured Truth they know better than that, and they know a lot. It's clear that they've got some songwriting chops, but it's also the performance is tight. The song itself, as I understand it, I think it's when they talk about getting on their knees and stuff like that, I'm wondering if they're talking about like kind of begging this person to go with them on whatever journey they're going to take them for a ride, etc. I don't know if it's figurative or whatever, but either way, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it. And they're basically very, very intent on this other person going with them. And a lot of the choruses, you be a passenger when you come with me, etc. Like a lot of it is kind of encouraging the person to get involved. So I think the pace and the passion of the performance here kind of backs that up really well. It's a very different song to the previous track, Radio Muse. I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those kind of like a variety show kind of albums who would go for different vibes and aesthetics per track. I'm excited for that if that is the case. I've listened to a few of those over my time and I do typically enjoy them. But we've got I Got It, track number 4.
Hey now, what you say now makes you brave now. Won't you stay? Hey now,
It's so peaceful, man.
can't complain now. What you say? Hey babe, I get what you say. We got this together, we feel the same way. It seems like forever in its own way. Sometimes it feels like you don't wanna stay. Hey now, got your way now. What you say now? Can't complain.
I mean, if I'm honest, I'll go back a little bit. Or maybe like, I think it's a repetition of the hook, but either way, just the slide guitar there, the softness of the vocal harmonies are just gorgeous. The tone of the guitars, it makes you feel at peace. It's almost like you've got what you want, so now it's time to relax, right?
Feeling brave now. What you say? Don't be lonely. Don't be lonely. Don't be lonely. You don't be lonely too. Don't be lonely. Don't be lonely. Don't be lonely. You don't be lonely too.
It's kind of mesmerizing, isn't it?
Hey babe, I get what you say. We got this together, we feel the same way. It seems like forever in its own way. Sometimes it feels like you don't wanna stay. Hey now, what you say now makes you brave now.
Great developing there of the vocal layers.
Won't you stay? Don't be lonely. Don't be lonely. Don't be lonely. You don't be lonely too.
Okay, this is an interesting one. There's like a buzzing sound that I could hear on either sides of the stereo field, and I'm wondering if that was like a guitar, like a distorted guitar, or like a synth or something like that. The boom. I kind of portamentoed up and down like that, and like a semitone going between like the major and minor third of it. I adore this song. I think it was, clearly a contrast to the previous kind of more higher octane, considering the passage. I think that's kind of nice, but this one, I think this track is about saying, hey, we've taken our ride together. Now we're just kind of able to kind of enjoy it, just chill with things. Hopefully, are you liking this? I'm liking this. Don't be lonely. There's no need to feel that way. We've got it. It's all good. I got it. It's all good. It could also be saying to the person, hey, if you're going through stuff, don't worry. You don't need to handle it alone. I got it. I can sort of like assist you with this. Does that make sense? I think that it's very therapeutic. It's a really peaceful track with the chord progressions, the use of softer sounding instruments within this there, the guitars. If there were any like leads there, they were trying to sink into the ether created by the mid to lower elements there. The brightness of the strummed strings there are a nice contrast up in the top end. But it's also the way the vocals were harmonized in upper to lower ranges there with the head and chest voice there. They were just very soothing and satisfying. It's a track that, we came down with an interesting kind of minorish, kind of almost Phrygian modish kind of thing, then resolved to a major for like that middle eight or something like that. We understand in music theory and composition, there's some really dope stuff happening here. And it's just testament to the fact that I think all of these tracks sound like they're within the same album, even though they're so different. That is compliments to the post-production. The mastering, I think, is tight. It's 4 for 4 as far as I'm concerned. We're at the halfway through my recording session for today, though. Track number 5. Interesting buzzing sound on the sides, panning from left to right, A little more experimental with this one, I suppose. It's like they've put a hyper distortion on everything. There's this interesting mid-range kind of sound to a lot of the elements within the mix. It's a little bit sharper and edgier than what we've had previously. I don't mind that. I think that if we're exploring new textures and trying to establish a mood with it, we've definitely succeeded. Oh. It's fizzy, isn't it? Interesting guitar tone. I don't know what to make of this. If I'm a little honest with this one, I'm a little bit confused about Drop My Snowball. Like, I get what the lyrics are telling me. Why don't you come back to haunt me? Why don't you come back to kill me? I need you or something like that. It's kind of makes me think, I dropped my snowball. Is that I dropped my hope? Is that I dropped my thing linking me to where I need to be, etc.? Is that a thing we valued and we lost it and now I've lost it all? Is that it? Are we kind of in a dark place and our minds kind of being distorted by the thoughts we have, and this is our way of processing it, and all this kind of but the synths are sharp and kind of and discordant to reflect the fact that we're in a state of mental disarray? The edge created by the distortion of a lot of the instrumental elements coupled with the vocals makes this track seem like it's in a darker, more aggressive place than what we've had previously. And I kind of enjoy it. We seem to be going hard, soft, hard with this album. I'm wondering if that is something we're going to continue through the rest of it, as that would be an interesting duality to explore there. But I hear this and I go, did this, the fizzy guitar tone that I think a lot of guitarists would typically try to avoid, did that decision in post or in the recording stage work? And I think that it did. When you've already got a lot of fizz, you need your distortion to be fizzier than fizz. Do you know what I mean? So I think that the choice of drums, the frenetic nature of those, coupled with the aggressive tones on the various instruments there, the chord progressions that we had were typically minorish, but there were some modal things going on as well. Like the note choices, we were exploring scales meant for certain parts. We had just moments where things would stop and kind of fluctuate as well. Like we had more of a soundscape than we potentially had on previous albums. There were quick moving sections within a piece that was already quite short, split into several segs by those pauses and the blah, 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 blah. Lots of attention to detail put into this. And the post-production as well is very good to be able to capture that in a way that is sensical. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I just think I'm missing context lyrically with Dropped My Snowball, and I'm not quite sure how it necessarily moves into the rest of the album, but we've got Life Less Lived, track number 6.
I have come and gone. I did nothing wrong. Nothing that made sense. On the way it wasn't clear. When I walked with fear. Showed me what was wrong. I couldn't keep a day without you. Now you're not here, and all I want to say is it was good that way.
I love the pitch we are at with our vocals, how low they are. It's such a risky move to have the vocals go low and the rest of the instruments go up. It makes sense from a compositional perspective because you don't want to have too much in one area. Like if he was really high as a vocalist and everything else was high, it wouldn't be as noticeable. But him going down like that, it's almost weighing him down somehow. Great shift. Like I still can't get over how we keep presence in the mix at that point. The organs, guitar, bass, and drums, the dynamic range going down to certain parts there. Like there's a lot to appreciate.
like to thank you for the way it was. All the time that we shared, the way we loved, and there was no fear.
And there was no fear. I like that. I think that this track, nice use of proximity effect, by the way, from the singer. You can hear, ooh, you can kind of hear him getting up close to the microphone using the proximity effect for a bit of extra bass response. I think that the story about, you know, looking back on the way we loved and the way we were and everything like that and what we had is kind of, it's beautiful, isn't it? I think at one point, if I'm not mistaken, he said, I've lived and died, like as in like he's kind of lived an entire lifetime and maybe like this is a new chapter, but like what they had before, they appreciated that as that life, if that makes sense. It's a very earnest piece of music from a singer, a songwriter, a storyteller who clearly has been in the place they're talking about. And you just get a sense of authenticity from it that I can really appreciate. The bits of vocal fry where we kind of start sparking up as well are fantastic, even though a lot of the time we're really satisfactorily in that low range, especially at the start of the hook, man, how we kind of seg with that root note is just wonderful. I think that we had a nice combination of different distorted-ish overdriven guitar parts with the steel string arpeggiated broken chords and strumming bits. The occasional lead guitar, like almost countryish elements had with like the lead tones there were nice. The bass thick and full in the low end, but they're getting the organs up in that high range. They're sparkling on top there, accentuating the existing progressions and triads there. But the drums with some interesting sort of like flickers of kick and snare and cymbal grooves. There may be some sort of tom stuff occasionally, but again, there was a lot of space there where we didn't necessarily have everything. We were careful to have some bits where things went down and up. We had some pauses to let the words linger. There was a nice range compositionally and structurally within this track. I appreciate the effort as well, making each of these tracks between 3 and 4 minutes. There's a lot of context and content within it. I adore the fact that we're putting effort into making sure there's no filler. We've got Blowing Up, track number 7. A little bit of hiss to that. It's quite a conservative chord progression for a hook line with the album that we've had. But I like the fact in a way that it's kind of majorish and kind of pretty and peaceful and sort of faithful and such. When we're talking about our life blowing up, I like that contrast between the story and the music. Unless, of course, that is a happy thing that our life is blowing up, I suppose, you know. Nice.
Never gonna see what your hard work brings. You better make it count before it's time to leave. Blowing up my life, gonna get it right this time.
Just while I remember, because I'm going to forget later on, I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything. I like the fact that we had like 3 sets of like the riff or the concept before the chorus. Usually people will have like 2 rounds through a progression or something, and then they'll have a bridge that's like 2 to 4 rounds through a progression. But I think we had it like 1 or 3 this time before we came into this chorus, which also, by the way, I appreciate the other vocalist in the lower range having a talk in the space that we left in the previous hook after the main sort of chorus stanza. I like that.
In a dream while I'm wide awake. Find another scene while I live this life of mine. Now I'm finally moving in degrees. Now they're gonna see.
The lead lines are fantastic on the guitar. I liked a lot of this track. After interrupting the track to comment previous, I try not to pause too much because I know that people want to hear the track in context, and sometimes you can potentially lose a bit of the magic if you interrupt too much. So apologies if that is the case. I'm trying to keep it to a minimum, but I noticed listening to this, I just want to comment, I think this mix was a bit tighter than the others from a post-production perspective. I could hear those hi-hats on the side, and I'm wondering if the hi-hats, and I know this is probably a little bit too late at this point. This album, at the time of me reviewing this, was released on March the 15th. When I say this, it isn't that it's like a game-breaking thing, you know, it's just more that the hi-hat could have probably been lowered about 0.5 decibels. Either that or it's the room mic, but basically I think you could have potentially lowered the hi-hat about 0.5 dB and it would have, I think, just sat perfectly, because a lot of the other stuff in the drums was, you know, effortlessly, perfectly sort of mixed. I'm just wondering if that was the actual recording itself that caught that, if it did like a live take or something like that. But either way, that's literally like the only complaint I've had throughout this entire album, and even though it's kind of like a very minor thing. The track itself, I think that this one blowing up was about someone like blowing up what they had before. Maybe it's following on about like the life less lived in previous, where we talked about the old life we used to have. Maybe in this new life we've blown stuff up to try and get something better, and we're moving in degrees, and we're hoping that people can see that we're trying to do things better, I suppose. I'm not quite sure. I'm a bit sort of 50-50 on this one, but I liked, again, the fact we had like a majorish kind of really kind of gentle, loving motif over top of the blowing up thing. I thought that was a nice juxtaposition there thematically. I think the various different lead guitar lines, the way we like added something to each of the choruses, such as the first chorus had just the vocals, the second had like the vocals and the quiet parts and the gap. Then the third chorus had like the higher lead parts as well, which is kind of dope. I like the fact we layered them and kind of built on them over time. And it was also just the fact that throughout the track, it was just so lush and flush with things to appreciate from the different guitar layers, the drums, the bass, and the various sort of upper range vocal takes as well. Some of the repeater takes, they kind of, when it's the head voice there and they kind of flooded over top. It was just a really refreshing track to listen to, especially after how kind of somber and grounded Life Less Lived was. Again, this album goes between different angles and accents, and it encourages you to try all of them. So I appreciate that. I wonder, I genuinely don't know how to predict where we're going to go next, and I adore that, but we've got Violets, tracks number 8. Those guitar tails that are die for, man. The reverb tails are amazing.
Sometimes life is a tragic ride. We all know sometimes that our dreams have passed us by. You know sometimes life is a tragic ride. Violets are singing, they're calling your name. Violets are singing with sunshine and rain.
Gorgeous imagery there. I mean, we have no filler. There's no gaps to really sort of like sit there and kind of go, oh, there's nothing here. Let's talk about it. There's a constant effort to keep things compelling. The chorus is nice and full of the various different instruments we've instantiated before. But I dropped My Snowball was kind of like an outlier. I think we're starting to get patterns of the kind of maybe like the chorus, kind of pretty reverb-laden guitarist. There were some occasional leads that'll probably pop in later on. The drums have a similar tone to them now, apart from Drop My Snowball. The bass line there, some of the vocals have returned.
It's so unkind sometimes. It feels our hope has died.
That was a game changer for me. I've been nodding along to this because it's mesmerizing. It's just so hypnotic. The combination of these wonderful, rich, full guitar harmonies there with the bass kind of rolling along, kind of going up and down the fretboard, rolling amongst the octaves and the triads, and the drums as well, with the occasional offbeat 16th, but very kind of loyal to the dun dun dun, the eighth note groove there. It's just that part we had lyrically there talking about trying to find meaning for it and stuff like that. And like knowing that they'll love you regardless. It's really kind of wonderful, isn't it? want a slow fade out. Classy. Dude, I wasn't expecting a fade out. Dude, I haven't heard fade outs in a lot of songs. Fade outs used to be a thing that used to get done a lot of the time, as I understand it. Often because, as I understand it, it used to happen because people didn't know how to finish songs, especially if they were like live performances and stuff was ad-libbed at the end, right? But it's just kind of nice to kind of fade out on that. It's such a smooth track for the most part. Then kind of go out like almost like it's a dream that you're having. Violet's the imagery talking about the rain and the sunshine and everything that is absolutely glorious, and combined with trying to help someone find their meaning even when they don't know if they have one. I think it's just a really wholesome and awesome thing to talk about. I might have misconstrued it, but that's kind of my understanding about some of the themes of it lyrically. And I'm sure if I had a second go at here listening through, I'd probably get the rest. But there's a lot of other really interesting stuff to talk about. But with that said, it wasn't a completely sort of like overwhelming performance instrumentally, in the sense that we didn't have a whole lot of alternate leads or anything like that. We predominantly focused, I think, on the vocals for this one. I really appreciated how most of the instruments pocketed in here. We had some really cool triplet drum fills, and there was a nice sort of swing groove that I don't think we've had previously throughout this album. That was kind of nice. But I think it was more about the aesthetic they were trying to create, that vibe of like the lush mids, the complicated chords, maybe some sort of ninths there or something like that, and the extensions of the harmonies. And it was meant to be kind of a more moderate approach to it. Kind of, again, calming and soothing. Potentially a little bit, like, it kind of reminded me of Blowing Up a little bit, and a kind of a mixture of like, but it's not as full bore there. The people playing these instruments within this, I think they're doing a great job at understanding how they need to play their instruments to suit the mood of the track. I will note that, like I've noticed as well with this track, there is a bit of compression on the bus chain of the drums, and I kind of dig it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not upset about it. I understand that, you know, but bus compression is good times. It's good vibes. It helps kind of make a mix, especially a drum mix, if you've got like a room mic or something like that, makes it sound a bit more boomier and kind of like more kind of powerful, and it kind of, that boxiness can often be like a really good thing. It's I think if the drums had been too raw on this, it would have been a little bit off-putting, I suppose. I like the way that the instruments were played, though. The leveling in general was fantastic, and it's got a sweetness to it. This one, it's part of its softness of the vocal performance here. We were very kind of breathy with it, if that makes sense. It's a good album. It's a really good album. We've got Something Else, track number 9, though, and then I'm taking a break until tomorrow. That's fun. I absolutely adore that first section leading up to that big twist after he says something, and then the mood instantly changes. Something else. You're expecting it to be something else because that's the song title. But then it does go to something else, but you expect the words to be something else. And then he says something else after that bit again. It's great. We're being led on this journey by the nose, and I'm not even mad about it. It's just I think it's the same singer from Life Less Lived. And I just appreciate that music. It's okay. How do I describe it without sounding kind of weird? It's like music is kind of needs to be manipulative in a sense. It needs to kind of mess with your emotions a little bit and kind of play against your expectations in order for it to be interesting, either with or against it. And these guys have got it down to a T.
I can't change sides for you. I'm dropping out.
Very layering of the keys, actually. I've got some piano here.
Things will work out perfectly. There must be something else. I can't change sides for you. There must be something else. There must be something else. I keep thinking, but it won't go through. Seems I've lost my signal to you. Even love can't save the way we were. You have something else in mind, 'cause our thoughts are not aligned. If my words cannot change sides for you.
Those bends there, can you hear them on the guitar there? Bow, da, da, bow. It's just such tension and drama in that big lift there. It's part of what, it's a very subtle thing, but a lot of subtle things used in combination create a big mood. And kind of that mood there, that's something else in mind that you get the feeling there's a bit of trepidation there.
I cannot change sides for you. I cannot change sides for you. I cannot change.
Bravo. Stunning track. I appreciate the various different guitar riffs, drum patterns and different bass sort of concepts we have in here, as well as the piano. The piano that we have here was wonderful. I don't think we've really had the keys much. We might have had some synth parts, but I don't think we've had the keys yet. Well, we had the organs. We haven't had the keys, I don't think. And I appreciate that. The piano can be such a wonderfully communicative instrument, given its 8 octaves, but in the sense that it's also kind of dry sounding. So I absolutely understand why the organs were used a lot more. I think given the unpredictable patterns in this, the piano was a bit of safe harbor and nestled in amongst the triads that we had instantiated different bits there. The guitars were very tense a lot of the time. We had either like sadness or we had stress and uncertainty in those builds there. We had an overall minor motif that kind of resulted in me thinking alongside the lyrics that this track was about someone, or maybe it was some of the hope from the violets and blowing up and stuff like that. And a lot of the other tracks within this first half of this album, the other person may not necessarily have what we have else in mind. Like they might have something else in mind, and our ideals might not be enough. And even if we love each other, it might not be enough to save it, etc. And it's just discussing and commiserating on those. Is commiserating the right word for it? Kind of, I suppose, accepting those differences and being unhappy about it for obvious reasons. Or maybe it was that we even thought it was previously different, so that's just further obfuscated communication. I'm not sure, but either way, I feel like I'm learning a lot about, Fractured Truth, the members and their sort of interpretations and feelings on the stuff they're discussing. And I like that. I like that I'm being let in. I think that when you're listening through an album, it's really important to have something of consistency lyrically in regards to like the themes or ideas and concepts that kind of tie everything together. I don't mind as a reviewer, not that it's my place to tell anyone how to be creative, but I personally don't mind when people have lots of different types of music in an album, as long as there's something connecting them together. And I think that we have that there. A lot of this is about relationships, about fresh beginnings, trying to figure each other out, trying to offer support, etc. I think this is the wonderful thing about it, is that a lot of people will be able to relate to this, because I think relationships, communications, interactions and stuff, love lost and gained, and support and the need for nurturing is stuff that all people can get behind. So I think that the themes in this are open enough that there will definitely be an audience for this. That will be assisted by the wonderful instrumental performances across the board within this album. The work, again, in this track with the keys, but there was also the songwriting, having the seamless, unpredictable transitions that they are just so, they're so well thought out. And I sound like I'm being probably overly positive about this. It's just literally impressive. It's really impressive. I really hope that Fractured Truth can find success with this album. They deserve it. The studio production in this was tight as well. I think, in retrospect, a lot of these tracks within this album have been mixed to be loud. There is dynamic range, but they are mixed to be loud. So I think on occasion I've been like, maybe the hi-hat is a bit too like high or something like that. It's because I think we're trying to make them big and we're trying to make them big, bulky, commercially ready sort of savvy tracks. And I dig that. I think it's nice. It works well with rock, but there's a lot. It's not just rock in this. There's a whole lot of different genres sort of like intersected within. I'm going to take a break for the night, though, as I'm going to go on a ramble and a tangent otherwise. But I'll be back tomorrow for round number 2, tracks 10 to 18. I'm actually excited. I don't say this often, but I'm actually excited to check out the second half tomorrow. So stay tuned. And welcome back today for part 2 of this review. We've got tracks 10 to 18 today. So without further ado, let's go, starting with Fuel. Interesting with the hums in the bass line, eh?
I added fuel to the fire and the sinners were hot. You threw your fuel on my fire, now I'm paying the cost. Let it burn till the morning, all we built is a loss. Let it burn now one morning, lift your head to the cross, yeah.
Are we got a shuffle on those hi-hats, eh? I think that's really dope. I think that's really cool. I think the harmonies that we have on the vocals here are kind of unique as well. I can't tell if they're like fourths or something like that, but either way they sound dope. And leads as well. Interesting change in lyric theme from the previous tracks, I think.
You were cruel by design, and now I'm paying the cost. You threw your fuel on my fire, now this fever is hot. Let it burn till the morning, seal my flesh, all is lost. Let it burn till the morning, lift your hands to the cross, yeah.
Slick transitions as well with the drums. Now there's a really seamless transition into the lead section. That's part of what I love about this album, is that we never hesitate to include something cool or unique to kind of sort of spread us over. Major resolution there. That was really well handled. I really appreciate the effort put into making that track interesting. I think it could potentially be about some of the stuff we've discussed. Sorry, I've just got some kids screaming outside. I can hear them through the window. Um, we've got ourselves a track, I think, about, I suppose, figuratively burning everything down that we had beforehand, maybe rebirthing the new like a phoenix, or simply just trying to destroy what we had just because we feel as if we need to. Or maybe we're doing it by accident, I'm not sure. We talk about the other person putting fuel on the fire as well to kind of make it more intense. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're going for here. There's a kind of bluesy, rocky, pentatonic blues, scalish kind of movement within this, but also some really interesting stuff going on with the turntablism, the kind of chopping and kind of all that kind of stuff. It was kind of dope. I wasn't expecting there to be some disc jockeying in this track, some scratching and stuff, but we had it, and I think it worked well. It was a nice alternate rhythm to what we had with like stuff going on with the drum kit, which again had a really pleasant sort of shuffle to it, like a 16th note groove to it. Some really fantastic guitar leads as well there. And I think combination with the interesting vocal harmonies, the way they are produced there, and either fourths, I'm pretty sure they're fourths or 11ths or something like that, the harmonized there. They might have been up an octave, you know what I mean? Or would they be fourths and 13ths? No, it'd be fourths and 11ths. But either way, still. It was a great effort. I can hear how this relates to the rest of the album. We could be taking a darker turn at this point, I'm not sure, but either way, it's pleasant. But we got track number 11, Walk With Me.
Down your phone and just talk to me. Why don't you walk with me? Put down your phone and just talk to me.
So we put down your phone and just talk to me. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and I feel as if a lot of people can probably benefit from doing that, right? There's a mournful tone to this, like we're distant and disconnected from the person we're sort of attaching to, we're sort of trying to communicate with. That is something that's indicated by the sadness of those acoustic guitar parts, the crying out of the lead guitars, etc., you know.
We can share serenity. You don't have to surrender to me. Streaming love is overrated. Holding hands works fine for me. Being yourself is not complicated. Why don't you just talk to me? Why don't you walk with me? Put down your phone and just talk to me. Why don't you walk with me? Put down your phone and just talk to me. We can share serenity. You don't have to surrender to me. Who are we anyway?
Interesting dominant seventh chord there, I think.
You think I'm complicated. I don't know, that might be true. Streaming love is overrated. Why don't you just talk to me? Being yourself is not complicated. Why don't you just talk to me? Why won't you just take a walk with me?
There's a really wholesome tone to a lot of the instruments within this track. I like the fullness of the guitars with the bass being nice and succulent in that mid to low end. The drums are a little bit more sort of low key in this one, I think, because again, the main focus on the vocals, but also because this isn't meant to be really upbeat, positive, kind of punchy track. It's meant to be one where we sound as if we are unhappy and feeling sad for the person who cannot be themselves, who cannot just take a walk with them, that they cannot connect with. I think that that's a really interesting thing to discuss. There's been a lot of interesting topics throughout this album. It's not just the fact that we've had really competent vocal performances, that the instrumental performances as well have been on par, and the studio production for the vast majority of it, like I'm really, really stoked with it. It's also that the stories in here are meaningful, both I think to Fractured Truth, but also to the average person listening to this. It's quite accessible thematically and lyrically. There were no real kind of distinct alternate lead sections here. It was more of a singly kind of single where the track just kind of tries to be more of kind of like it's like short and sweet, even at 3 minutes 20 is what I'm trying to say, that they're not trying to put too much in there to overwhelm the listener. They're trying to give you like a taste of what they're about, but it also segs quite nicely between tracks within the space of an album, so I think it works in both regards. The really kind of the finish where, you know, why won't you just walk with me, where we extend the line there, we focus on that hook. Like on a lot of other situations with this album, we just kind of like leave that question there for the person listening to sort of ponder upon. I think that's really clever as well. It leaves it open-ended. We still resolve to a minor there, so it makes it seem as if we don't think that person's going to be able to sort of like connect with us after all. But we got track number 12, Long Way Home. I mean, that's just such a ferocious shift, both tonally and in regards to the chord progressions that we had there. I wasn't expecting it to go as hard as that, because we had those steel strings initially, and we were sticking in that low end, but then the distorted guitars coming in the drums, and there's just a whole lot of oomph there, and the harmonized vocals with a kind of uncomfortable interval harmony choice there. But like kind of sounding regal and overpowering, I suppose, as if we're about to face an immediate challenge in a great epic quest or something. I'm not sure. It's just... that's a massive vibe shift, but we've had that quite a few times in this album, and I appreciate the fact we're trying to give the listener something different and kind of catch him off guard. It goes back so nicely into the main sort of theme with these leads, and several leads, to be honest, for the guitars. It's ferocious, man. Just want to comment on our lead section for a moment. It was stunning. I think part of it was the phrasing of it that was nice and elegant over the existing chord progressions and the motif there. I really also enjoyed the way that they processed it. There was this kind of chorus or harmony sitting there where it went up a step. Well, not just the literal tone, but like it was higher. There's a higher and a lower sitting there, and the way it fizzled. It kind of was a similar approach. Well, not exactly to Drop My Snowball, where they kind of really affected the guitar tone to make it sound like a synthesizer or something like that, or like a really kind of fuzzy old school kind of pig nose guitar amp. But it made it kind of sound like similarly to how the vocals were done in that chorus section, and allowed a sense of textural consistency there, which helped sort of like connect those things a bit more neatly. Sorry, I've just got to find the play button. I need a new camera stand. Oh man. So that was a huge track. I appreciated the heft and size of it, especially in those chorus sections where things really ascended and crescendoed. It was a tale of two sides. You had the more kind of calmer verse parts here with a bit of flexibility and sparkle, and some of those octave distorted chords with the lead kind of fluffy sort of strat leads on top of it. But then we kind of get into this chorus section where again we have the 4th or 11th, whatever harmonies they have with the vocals there, the stacked ones. The ominous, oppressive guitar riff there with some unusual, I think there might have been some accidentals. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, we've got some interesting decisions there with the harmonies with the guitars as well. They're ferocious and heavy sounding. And then you get this feeling as we go near the end, especially after Walk With Me, where we might have walked with that person, but we're kind of encouraging them gently to do so, but then we're also understanding that there's a hell of a long way we've got to walk. And I think this track is kind of commenting on that walk, that long way home. So I'm wondering if it's like a to and fro kind of thing between these tracks, that kind of like the more welcoming, kind side of things, and then like a harder, more severe kind of, no, this is what it's going to be like. This is the severity of it, the actual reality. I think there was enough dynamic range in this for the different sections with their respective intensities to work. The lead part with the guitar, as well as I mentioned, was really nice, and I think ultimately the drums again, like with the bass, it was a really palatable mixture. I kind of got Pearl Jam vibes mixed with like kind of grungish elements there. There are a lot of different ingredients within this track. I think they have listed their influences, such as Phil Collins, Rod Stewart, and Steve Winwood, as well as Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden. So I'm not surprised with a lot of the music that we've had within this, and I think that it's fantastic to explore. It's really interesting to combine those. That's the beauty of collaboration, is that you get a couple of people, like Mark and Wayne, and they come together and they bring their sort of what they like together, and you get this album. I'm really impressed with it though. But yeah, we've got Trap, track number 13. I mean, it's just smooth transitions, right? I mean, I hate interrupting. There's just because I don't just want to sit here and listen the whole time without commenting on stuff, because then I'm literally going, oh, and then 2 minutes 30 later, bah, 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 bah. Like I've got to, but they don't give you a chance, man. It's just so slick and well written. I mean, it's just so intense, isn't it? The lyrics, I think they're about getting physical with someone else, and maybe that's the trap of getting physical with someone else, you know? Like sexually physical, I assume. I could be wrong, but I think that's the kind of what I understand from this. And the raunchiness comes through with the guitar parts. You know, I think that was fantastic. Really well handled there. There's like a sizzle, kind of an old school kind of rock and roll kind of vibe with it. And we get extra leads on the sides, even with a driving bass line, and the eighth note grooves on the kit with occasional sixteenths. It's very not simple, like minimalist instrumentally to allow the story to take full effect. It's a hell of a tune, really. I mean, like, it's nice and short at 2 minutes 40. You get a couple of verses, a couple of choruses. The language is fairly straightforward and easy to understand. There's a nice kind of vocal fry to it the entire time. There's a bit of grit and passion behind it as well, which is really cool. I appreciate, again, the combination of the guitar, bass, and drums there. Nice and easy to sort of kind of vibe with. I think that they understand when to keep a track relatively minimalist from a compositional perspective and when to kind of glow it up and make big changes and adjust stuff. It could be that like different people are writing different tracks, but it's also just that even if that were I mean, either way, it's still an interesting album so far. It is still unpredictable to know what we're going to have next. I mean, we've only got 5 tracks to go, and last night when I said that I was keen to listen through the rest of the album, I wasn't joking. Like, for real, I'm very excited to hear what happens next, and I don't say that often. It's just great that they've turned it in. It's into some kind of adventure, right? I suppose if I was to have a go at what the song was about just before we move on, I think it's about like wanting to get involved with each other. I think, yeah, like rap so tight, but you're so damn strong. I think with a few of the other lines in here, I think it is about kind of wanting to get sort of intimate with the other person. And then that's maybe the trap and they can't get out of it or something like that, but it's just so alluring. Is that it? Maybe that's it. I could be wrong though. This is one of the tracks where I don't really want to be wrong about it, what I think it's about, but it's also my first listen and that's what I've heard. So the production, the kind of grittiness of the way that everything sounded, the kind of spiciness and glow of it sounded appropriate and kind of, I've said kind of a lot. It sounded old schoolish, but I kind of appreciate the rough edges of it. Not to the extent of Drop My Snowball, but still trap, you know, it's dope. We got track number 14, The Traveler.
Lies ahead. I'm looking for love outside the bed. When it's time to run, it's never said. If you leave the one you love, ghost is in your head. Too many places to leave your pain.
Nice repeaters there.
I'm looking for spaces without the strain.
I think that I appreciate a few things about this. The harmonies and the vocals with the chorus are fantastic. They're a nice contrast to the more sort of straightforward stuff occurring in the verses. The guitar, organs, bass, and drums are niching nicely with each other. The organ has a bit of a warble to it. It could also be the guitar that's got that, a kind of wavering there. That could be also the person trying to make decisions after what's occurred has occurred. The track is flowing nice and smoothly as well. It's positive along with the rest. I just want a bit more time with the story and the rest of the theme to sort of figure it out.
If you leave the one you love, their ghost is in your head. You may not recognize my interlude. I
Considering it's an interlude.
apologize if I intrude. The ghost inside my head won't set me loose.
I mean, like, I appreciate the different sort of lead guitar sections as well. I think this one kind of gives the listener a little bit of space, or a little bit of space to contemplate what's being said before it. I think it relates to trap, as well as a few other things. You know, like needing a release or something like that, and then regretting the moment you go away from that person you loved. You won't forget them. That guilt will be with you. You know. Has bluesy overtones there, which makes sense, considering I don't think this track is a particularly happy one. We had such fire and passion in Trap. This one is sort of more the morning after, and you potentially regretting what's occurred and having to deal with the consequences of your actions and how they affect others. Sadly, I do think this is something that people will probably be able to relate to, whether they've been on the receiving end of it or whether they've done the deed. And I think that it's worth discussing. You know, it's worth being real about. I appreciate the honesty from Fractured Truth, whether this is something they've directly been involved in or not, or been sort of had to deal with. It sucks. It sucks for many different reasons. You know, I think that the organ was a fantastic choice. It adds that sort of sense of both kind of early 20th century bluesy nostalgia to it, like that. It adds a bit of spirituality, I suppose, to it, a bit of philosophy to it, a little bit of sophistication there. Harmonizing on top of some of the triad and root notes of the chords within the progression. Lead guitar solos were voiced very eloquently, and they had a sense of they were kind of box played. They didn't get too explorative and all around the fretboard, but they didn't need to. It was more about the feeling that they were trying to invoke, the feeling of sadness or regret or something like that, working with those minor pentatonics and the scale itself. Bass and drums providing a ground bed for that and being more supportive in the role there with solid production as well. I'm happy with this track, even though the story itself isn't particularly happy. But we got 15, number 15 next, Make Our Way.
In a land of worry, finding our way home.
I mean, is this like a celebration of the past that we've had and trying to look at the brighter side of things after the Traveler? Is that it? Is that like, did you like, are we going between like extremes, the sadness to like, or maybe I misinterpreted the Traveler? I mean, either way, I think it's a really fascinating song. It's a complete sort of vibe shift, the personality there. You know, like it's a situation where like the lead guitarist combined with the upbeat tone of the drums and the bass and everything make it seem a little bit more upbeat and courageous and grandiose. And I kind of enjoy that. I think again, it's unpredictable, but it's very pleasant to listen to, and you kind of sing along to it and enjoy it. Hang on. I loved that little sort of triplet tone fill there. That caught me. That caught me off guard. That's a little bit less pocketing than I was expecting for that part. A little bit of flashiness there from the drummer, as well as those. In addition to that, I really like those sort of synthy call and responses in that second verse that we had on top. They were fun textures there. That is a bit of playfulness and fun, I suppose, to the track, you know? Minor shift. Sick drum fill, man. Okay. Alright, make our way. What do I think this track is about? I think it's about celebrating our various highs and lows of our life, trying to find some joy and purpose in it, and just trying to not be too negative about it. I think a lot of the last few parts of this have been talking about, you know, walking home and the length of that journey, and maybe Trap and the Traveler have been dealing with those issues as we find our way back. This, though, is coming out of the end of that journey, or like getting to a higher point of that adventure and realizing that things are going to improve and that things will work out. I've just also realized, unrelated, that I spent like $600 on studio lights because I was worried it would not be bright enough in the room to be able to do these recordings. And it turns out it is absolutely bright enough in the room to do these recordings without the lights. So that's great, I suppose. There we are. I'm probably oversaturated now. I just want to make sure there's no issues. I just want to make sure there's no issues in post with editing this with any green screen stuff. But either way, I think that the lead guitar parts are absolutely wonderful. They're nice and bright and upbeat and riveting. The bass, I had a great time in the lower end as well. And I think that the drums, there were some wonderful tom fills we had occasionally. There's like a little triplet thing, but then there was also a wonderful kind of fill, an extended one going into the last chorus. We had a majorish overtone with a lot of the different chord choices here. Even though we typically stuck with power chords, we had arpeggiated kind of string skipped parts there working between triads and maybe some bar chords potentially. But it was meant to be energetic and exciting, and I think that it exemplified a hope for the future or positivity for the future. The post-production as well was really quite nice on this one. It sounded like, it kind of reminded me of a similar kind of feeling I get from tracks like Summer of '69 or something like that. I'm not sure, like the way the music sounds to me, it kind of reminds me of that. But either way, I think that it's a really interesting turn of events. We've got 16 though, not a cure. I mean, like, there's that interesting, again, like, when I look at, like, Alice in Chains and the Soundgarden influences, I can hear them with the stuff going on from, like, the vocal harmonies that we have within this chorus line. I think that's really dope. It's just kind of an interesting parallel to what we had with the You Tell Me song at the start of the album, where now we're saying, I can't tell you what to do. You know, we've gone to that point now after our journey that we've realized we can't tell them how to live our own lives. Oh, nice shift here. And lead, yeah. I mean, like, it's just so huge sounding there, the soaring lead over top there, but a real kind of dismal mood to it. We're almost challenging the person to find a way, as if it's a great big challenge or something that they need to overcome. That's what that harmony sounds like to me. It's like there's a big challenge or like a big mountain we have to climb. That's how that interprets to me as a listener. And it's like you're the person trying to sort of like surpass that. The drums and bass and distorted guitars are confrontational, which are a nice contrast against the soft, slightly softer, more kind of like measured parts in the verses with the steel strings.
I am not a cure for you. I can't tell you what to do. I am not a cure for you. I can't tell you what to do. I can't save myself for you. I am not a cure, that's true.
Nice radio filter voice there. Really well handled. No, that's a good track. I mean, it's a bit longer than a lot of the others, 4 minutes 15, but I don't personally see an issue with that. I think that if you can flesh out a piece of music with enough interesting content within the verses and choruses, if you can allow different lead sections there, if you have an outro like we did with the varying ways of interpreting, talk to me, and different, like, sort of tones of the voice, like with the radio filter and stuff like that. If you allow yourself like a down period there with dynamic range where we just had the guitar and the guy singing, there are changes within this composition, even if we iterate upon the hook line quite a bit, or like the chorus parts quite a bit, that make it nonetheless intriguing to sit through. I think at this point of the album as well, if you listen through it from start till finish, you're probably going to sit here and listen through this one too, so if not just for the sake of continuity and having the whole story, but also because you're familiar with a lot of stuff that's going on right now, and I think they've kind of earned the ability to not have like a track that's more kind of consistent or like predictable. There are like parts where, like, for instance, you might have like 3 goes through a riff instead of 4 or something like that. Like they do kind of cut some of the sections and some bits by a bar or whatever to kind of catch you off guard and allow kind of more kind of fun, interesting, unique transition. I think the track Not a Cure is because I mean, Make Our Way was about making our way in life and our journey and kind of having the agency to be able to do that. I didn't really talk about what the track was about with Make Our Way. I think that's probably it, unless I did. But Not a Cure, I think it's about accepting that we are not the cure for this person, that they need to make their own decisions and they need to be able to understand what they have to do and sort of be able to cope with their own problems. I think that is a nice turn. If that is related to You Tell Me, that's a nice transition there, a moment to sort of celebrate, as there has been not only been sort of growth potentially for the person writing it or sort of talking about it, but also a sense of connection throughout the entire record. But yeah, I'm really stoked with it. I think that Not a Cure is a really well handled track. Grey Matter, track number 17, 2 to go. Great shift to the higher range. Is this through composed? There has just been new section after new section after new section. I might be tripping, but if that is, I kind of dig that. I've had a lot of tracks where we focus on making sure that hook line is absorbed and just it's there and you cannot possibly forget it. But I think that it's kind of dope to have a song like Grey Matter where we're like, hey, this is a new thing and this is a new thing and this is a new thing. We're going to have a different chord progression here. a different interpretation of like the lead parts or the bass or the guitars or the drums here. I kind of appreciate that we're going on a bit more of an adventure here. Oh no, we're returning back here. Ah.
I start to feel my brain is insane. The beat is on and my nerves are melting.
All right, that's charming. I'm really happy with this. I think that this track was another fun ride. I mean, I don't think that the subject matter is fun. I think it's about someone whose perception of the world, the fractured truth, two different sides of things. Maybe this album has been about like two different viewpoints or realities competing with each other. And with Grey Matter, we've just, make our way and not a cure, kind of opposites of each other. And Grey Matter is accepting that maybe our reality is just not what it is and we're just suffering. Our cognitive abilities are declining due to what we've been through. Is that it? I mean, either way, even if I'm off, that is my best shot on a first listen basis. I think that the way that we have, again, the different chord progressions, the harmonies on the guitar, bass, and drums, and I think there were some organs as well, if I'm not mistaken, that I could be wrong. We've had a fair bit of the guitar, bass, drum makeup, although we've had other decorating instruments like synths and keys and a lot of other things along the way. But getting back to this track, Grey Matter, you kind of bum, 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 bum. It doesn't resolve to a happy note. It sounds like we're constantly climbing up a staircase to get to a conclusion that we never seem to be able to reach. The way that the drums, guitar, and bass are in sync, especially in those chorus sections there, with a wispiness relative to those delayed reverb guitar arpeggios, and potentially some like leads on top there for the guitar to kind of decorate the higher layers. But there's no real alternate leads to what we had with the vocals in this, as far as I'm concerned. I like the dynamic range to this. It was kind of dope, to have the difference between loud and quiet parts, especially at the end there where things came down and you could kind of just sort of sit with it for a minute. It's an interesting turn of events. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. It kind of makes me wonder what track number 18, Holdout, is going to be, the culmination. Is going to be the culmination of everything we'd had before? Is it going to be a bowing out?
You got your wisdom, or so it seems. I watched you move along to the next scene. You've got your spirit in the machine. I watched you lick my plate till it was clean. I got your number while we were hot. You held me down while I was finding God. I know your feelings are cold as hell. You took it all as I was getting well. Hold on, baby. Hold up, baby. Hold on, baby. This is crazy. Hold on, baby. Hold up, baby. You gotta hold out. You gotta hold out. You gotta hold out.
I mean, like, I appreciate the work done with the wah pedal. Lyrically, I'm not sure how this track connects to the rest of it, but that's okay. At this point, I just think having the wah, that is a really fun texture to have at the end. I'm surprised we haven't really had it earlier. The bar chords on the guitars coupled with the bass and the funky drum groove are nice as well.
Another name. I watched you creep along to got my crosses nailed to the wall. I watch you slap my face and watch me fall. Hold out, baby, this is crazy. Hold out, baby, you're my lady. Hold out, baby, this is crazy. You gotta hold out, you gotta hold out, you gotta hold out.
Kind of a ballsy move to have a main lead and have da 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 on the side there, like two leads harmonizing with each other into intersecting and coalescing. It's kind of dope actually.
Hold out, baby, hold up, baby. Hold out, baby, this is crazy. Hold out, baby, hold up, baby. You gotta hold out, you gotta hold out, you gotta hold out, you gotta hold out. Hold out, baby, this is crazy. Hold out, baby, you're my lady. Hold out, baby, this is crazy. You gotta hold out, you gotta hold out, you gotta hold out, you gotta hold out.
I'm not sure what to make of this one. I haven't done my yoga today, so I'm needing to stretch. I'm going to do some yoga after this. It's a situation where for Holdout, I appreciate that this is the last track on the album. When I hear this, there was like a line where like you're holding me down whilst I was finding God or something like that. It's going back to, I think, maybe a toxic relationship. Is it that he wanted to be held down so that he could find what he needed, or is it? I think I've maybe been like red herring, but basically because I don't have the whole story. But is it a situation where this drama, this turmoil they're going through, maybe the grey matter is like a paranoia kind of thing where they feel like they're losing everything and they're sort of struggling, and then this Holdout is like, no, you can get through this. We just got to keep going. We just got to make it through this. Everything's going to be okay. You can do this. We will be okay. Is that it? I'm a little bit confused about this one. I know there was more stuff in the verse. I do these reviews on a first listen basis, because if I wasn't to do that, then okay, the recording sessions with these would probably honestly be twice as long. Because then if I was to listen to it more than once, then it'll be like okay, but then you should listen to it as many times as you need to understand the track, and then there's just a whole lot of nuance there. So that's what I got on my first listen, anyways. It's a situation where I liked the wah pedal that was going on with either the guitar or the bass. I thought the drums and the guitar and bass in this track were really nice and tight. There were some really compelling, interesting riff ideas and melodies as well. I liked the two different guitar leads that we had in that lead section later on. I think that the vocals were nice and charismatic and peppy, and they were catchy and they get stuck in your head. And I liked the fact there were different singers throughout this album, that they had different tracks with different leads and stuff. They could all sing. Everyone involved could sing. So that's fantastic as well. That's incredibly helpful. The production in this track was tight. Things were nicely leveled. There was an adequate amount of dynamic range. I'm really happy with the precision of the performance as well. There were interesting sort of drum fills that we had in amongst all the guitar kind of the slides and bends and legato sections. And yeah, we didn't overplay. Sometimes we pocketed it, but it was enough to keep an interesting kind of really sort of fanciful composition that I enjoyed my time with. We're going to talk about this album as a whole in a moment. I just want to collect my thoughts for a moment, and then I will see you in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this album from an act named Fractured Truth, titled Radiopaque. This, I'm going to try and talk about the album as a whole here, because I think that going through all 18 tracks and discussing them separately, that's why I have the conclusion section after each track. So if you're going straight to the conclusion, and you're wanting me to talk about each of the tracks individually, we have conclusions at the end of each track. But this will be a whole comment kind of thing. I'll talk about what I've heard and what I can remember and what I understand about the album, and hopefully it'll be palatable. What do I think this album is about? I think that this album is about someone dealing with the breakdown of a relationship with someone. I'm not quite sure who. There was like love and intimacy, and there might have been someone else involved, and that was the reason why the relationship imploded. But either way, they're potentially trying to find their way back to this person. They're trying to figure out if it's worth even going back to this. There's just a bit of chaos in there, strewn there intermittently. There's admissions on that journey that it's going to be a difficult journey to come back from. You get the feeling that like there's also some issues like mental health or something like that, people dealing with the decline of like their cognitive functions and abilities and stuff like that, and trying to just sort of give support and everything like that as well, with violets and such like that, you know. There's also songs like I Dropped My Snowball where like it gets kind of visceral and kind of edgy and kind of, it's deliberately uncomfortable, I think, from the position of like songwriting, but also the vocal performance and how just kind of gritty and distorted everything is. But I think that there's a lot going on lyrically in regards to the story of this overall album. I'm just thankful that they tried to have an overall story within this album, because I think it would have been such a shame to have had things be kind of random, to have talked about different individual things that didn't necessarily connect in an album of this size, especially with how well it was written. It's very satisfying to be able to see a connection between the different ingredients there as a concept and to be able to hear it in full. So well done to Fractured Truth for that, if nothing else. And if I'm completely off with the themes and stuff and what it's about, feel free to let me know. The vocals, we had different singers and they could all sing. They were all comfortable in their vocal ranges, their head and chest voice. We had some parts we went really, really low, like Life Less Lived. We went really low for that root note there, and it was very satisfying. We're also comfortable in our mid to high ranges there. We had some tracks where there was a phenomenal vocal fry there. A lot of it was kind of like fractured. Some parts were super smooth and silky. Others were kind of almost falsetto-ish in their head voice there and soft. We had a massive range of different ways of expressing ourselves on the mic vocally, and I think they all worked. I don't think there was a track where I was confused by what the singer was doing or what they were saying. The words came through clearly as well. I think we emoted in a way that was relevant and meaningful for the context that the story was discussing. And ultimately, I think there were a lot of sensible decisions made, especially with an album. You know, when you release something of this size, 18 tracks, you need every single track to work. It's just too competitive in the industry nowadays. You know, even without the money being involved here, if you have an album where there's any noticeable weak spots, it can just kind of cripple it a little bit, even if it's like a hobby thing. There's just, if we can make each track strong, that's what we need to do. And they did that here. The singing was great. The notes were in tune. There were no issues there whatsoever. I was very satisfied with the vocal performance there. And I think that, yeah, there was a nice synergy between the vocals and the stories that were being sung, the singers, and the stories they were telling. The tracks within this album, you know, there are a wide variety of different genres. You know, it went from there was rock, the umbrella of rock, but there was blues and some funky bits and some country and some hard rock and some kind of rock and roll and some turntablism occasionally, some sort of experimental, sort of exotic stuff. I think there were even there were lots of different instruments like synths and keys and organs and bass and drums and guitar. A few different soundscapes as well, potentially there. They were all used in a way which were meaningful and I think relevant to what we were discussing. There were no points where I listened to any of these tracks and thought, wow, that style or way that we playing doesn't make sense with the story. When there were sadder songs, there was bluesy elements there. There was a lot of grunge as well, and alternative rock, should I say, as well. That was a big component of it as well. Like kind of the 90s, it was strong. But there was also even some poppy stuff. Like there was some poppy ways. Like again, we had like a massive focus on like getting some of those hook lines nice and strong and repeated in the headphones, but not poppy in a way that it sounded kind of sterilized and generic. It was more like it was the most effective ways of kind of getting the hook stuck in the listener's head. It was kind of like the pop music of like the 60s and 70s and 80s and stuff like that, where it was more musically complicated and stuff, and a little bit sort of like arguably a little bit more sort of interesting and sort of more academic, I suppose. Not to get too rocktivist or anything like that, but Effectively, I think that the tracks at between 3 and 4 minutes were typically wonderfully structured. We had some tracks which were more predictable with traditional sort of verse chorus transitions, and some had solo sections, some did not. We had intros as well with instruments, and some had outros, occasionally had fade outs, some just bluntly ended, some were iterations of like lower like intensity parts of the chorus. The thing that I appreciate is that they weren't all the same. Some tracks were massive adventures where like we had like 3 or 4 sections and then we went back to the initial. Some parts we just had a lot of variation within the way the songs were structured, but the transitions were usually seamless. Sometimes we cut one time less of like a section than we normally would, like as I've said it several times in this probably 2-hour review at this point, where like we usually have sets of 4 bars for like a verse, or like sets of 4 lines for a verse, and then 4 lines for like a bridge, and then like whatever. But we'd have like 3 lines or something and come in with like a full chorus or something. Sometimes a lot of it is to do with the way that the instruments were played and the chord progressions and stuff were written. But if I talk about the instruments though, the main ones for me that I appreciated were the organs, the guitar, bass, and the drums. If I talk about the guitar first, that's one of the ones I remember most clearly. We had a few key functions for the guitars. The first was to provide a sort of steel string arpeggiated, either strummed or broken chord, or kind of backing on the sides there to whatever was going on with the vocals, the organ, the distorted guitars, the bass, or the drums. And in general, I think they worked really well. They're especially effective in the lower intensity areas there after like choruses or whatever as a nice foil. Dynamically, they are very appealing. The tone of those steel string guitars was beautiful and lush and gorgeous. And we also sometimes had a bit of delay or reverb on them, as well as a bit of chorus potentially to sort of make them even prettier. The distorted guitars we had like in the rhythm sections there, whether they were power chords or maybe sort of like overdriven bar chords, or even some octave chords occasionally, were spicy, but they weren't overwhelming. They were heavy, but they weren't oversaturated. It's almost like we managed to find the right mixture of intensity without making it sound like we're trying to get into like metal or anything like that. There was a kind of heaviness where it wasn't weighing you down too much, but it was like enough to kind of get you to sit there and take notice of it. It was a bit raucous at times when it needed to be in tracks like Trap, for example. But it just to suit the mood of like the lyrics and the vocals and stuff like that. But it was also so low key with like the lead guitar sections in some tracks. Granted, we had some bluesy, pentatonic, bendy, hammer on pull off legato bits where there was a lot of kind of spice and fancy stuff going on there with the layers, and hold out we had some extra leads on the sides there with harmonies there. We were wonderfully fluid with those. But it was also a situation where like we had them as guitarist sub leads occasionally, where they'd kind of go underneath the vocals, or like provide an added bit of layer in the mid-range there, sometimes if there was an absence of like the organs or like the piano or something like that. So I think in all, I think the lead, the rhythm distorted, and the rhythm sort of like acoustics, they performed 3 different key functions. They did all of those well. There was never any, I was happy with the way things were handled, and they were respectful to the type of music we were playing, with the relevant chords and melodies to match. The bass was fantastic. I heard the bass tone and I liked the sound of it. It was nice and full, and it was wonderfully textured and sat really nicely with the drums and provided a sense of rhythmic cohesion with that. The groove was set and it stayed nice and loyal to that, was really sort of respectful to the root notes of the guitar parts, and ultimately just presented a nice sense of pace when it was there. And sometimes the bass wasn't and things kind of floated, but I think you could appreciate it nonetheless. It's knowing when to have something there and when not to have something there, and they knew how to do it in spades. It was a more subtle part of the mix, but I don't necessarily mind that. When you've already got the vocals as a main focal point with occasional guitar leads in as well, it's totally fine. You know, the mixes, the arrangement is quite as busy enough as it is, but the drums, oh man, the drums were amazing. I love the wide array of different drum grooves we had there, from like sort of hi-hat and crash parts with the kick and snare, sort of standard 8th note grooves there. There's some shuffles with the 16th, kind of even some cowbelly bits there with some ride cymbals, and a lot of really intricate, really cool tom, snare and tom fill patterns there as well. We could clearly play the kit. We were wonderfully dexterous in that regard. There was a great proficiency to that, but it was also incredibly tight. Like there were only I could only hear 1 or 2 hits that were slightly out in the entire album, and that's ridiculous because it's so damn tight otherwise. And even then, like, that just lets me know that someone is playing the drum kit. They haven't quantized the beats or anything like that. They haven't tried to make it perfect and just sort of overproduced it. The drummer could play the drums, and I enjoy that. I think the drummer knew when to pocket and be a little bit more sort of like consistent and have a better sort of like partnership with the bass and guitar parts to kind of lower things for the vocals. And then when things came up, if they had a moment to shine, they did. There were some interesting sort of triplet drum fills or whatever. But it was also the different tones, like in songs like Drop My Snowball. We had different types of drums throughout. Sometimes they were a bit more sort of boxy with the bus compression, and I didn't necessarily like that the hi-hat was loud in one of the tracks. But aside from that, I think the drums were handled really efficiently. The hi-hat thing was more of a post-production thing anyways, and the drummer could really play. And the organs and the keys, I've kind of considered them under the same boat. They perform similar functions. Some may disagree with that. I feel that, I mean, as a person who plays the keyboard, I could. Anyways, moving on. I think that they perform similar functions. When there was the piano on one or two of the tracks, potentially, it had a nice sort of arpeggio, like a function of the mid to high range, kind of coloring things a little bit. There was maybe some broken quarter arpeggiated bits going on there with the lead. But it was basically there to kind of decorate and add a bit of higher end resonance there to make things sparkle in that part of the frequency spectrum. The organs typically layered on top of the guitar riffs there in a way that was really sensational. There might have been some leady parts in the organs, but I typically think they were more sort of supportive. They were kind of a sub-layerish kind of thing, almost like the bass was, except in the mid to high range. And I think that was a smart move there, especially for wanting a guitar ledge to be more of the focal point, if not the vocals. I should also note that we had some synth melodies very occasionally, some interesting parts. There was a call and response there in Make Our Way. They were a bit more sort of upbeat and positive and playful, and sort of sense of innocence that I appreciated there. Things weren't too serious in that track. It made sense to have a bit of fun with that. There was also turntablism in one of the tracks. I can't remember which one it was, but it was nice to have a bit of a cutting or chopping up there, just to kind of have a new sound. I'm not necessarily sure how it was meant to relate with what was going on there, and that's something that I'll listen to again in post and I'll be like, oh, I get it, but I still like the sound of it and the way it was done. I thought it was really well handled, and if anything, I think it was I think the actual technique itself was solid. The themes themselves within this track, with the instruments aside, there's just so much in here. Like I talked about how the individual tracks sounded, I think, throughout. We had a fundamental understanding of music theory and composition. The overall impression I get from this, though, is that we're going back and forth between extremes. There's some tracks where kind of go, oh, things are really intense. Things are softer. Oh, we're more boisterous. Oh, we're more kind of relaxed or something like that. There's constant contrast tonally, thematically, instrumentally, stylistically, but throughout this album. And I think that it's meant to show someone toing and froing between different aspects of their life. And I don't know if we necessarily reach a conclusion. I don't know if we do. And that's from an instrumental perspective itself, let alone like a lyrical one. And I kind of like the fact that it's unresolved. A lot of the time people will try and make it so that there's a nice little bow at the end. But here I don't think we have that. I would have thought that Make Our Way would have been that, but then we had Not a Cure, where things were kind of instantiated to show things were not good. Grey Matter, where things were getting a bit worse. And then Hold Out, I just don't know where we're at. From like a theme basis, from like a lyrical basis, it leaves me kind of feeling a little bit uncertain about where we have next, but then maybe that's the point. And if so, that's one of the most risky albums I've listened to, and I kind of appreciate it. So well done. I think that, outside of what I've been saying about the work within this, from the themes there, because again, discussing the themes for all 18 tracks, overall, there's just so many different styles. It's just so varied. Like, this is not just rock. This is so many different things. What I will say is, again, when we talked about the influences of Phil Collins, Rod Stewart, Steve Winwood, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden, I can hear all of those in here. Like, I can hear a lot of like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden alone within a lot of the vocal harmonies and passages there. There are also some more electronic parts, and I could definitely hear some Phil Collins and some of the vocal stylings. It's great. It's really well written music, and I think that even though there's a wide variety of different styles of music within this with the different tracks, I think the vocals are part of what keeps it connected there, at least texturally, and I am glad we have that for a sense of it's an interesting album. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering, though, is wonderful. I appreciate the way that it was handled there. Things were mastered well. The vocals were nice and clear in the mix, whether they were the repeaters or they were like the radio filter vocals or something like that. The harmonies there, because I mean, like, there were different like fourth harmonies and intervals, different effects on the vocals as well. I think Drop My Snowball even had some distortion on the vocals there. We didn't oversaturate the vocals or try and fix them. Some tracks were more raw than others, like Life Less Lived. We made the vocals interesting to listen to, whatever we did with them, and so I think that was solid within the album. The guitars, bass, drums, the organs, the pianos, the synths, the turntables, and whatever instruments we had were also quite well niched, and I appreciate the effort put into getting them stuck in the frequency spectrum without any weird resonant frequencies and nice and wide in the stereo field. We might have had some things flicker from side to side as well. I remember there being some movements there. We had like some wah things as well. There might have been some automation there. We had like fade outs and stuff like that. We had a massive amount of dynamic range, so things were not over compressed, even though sometimes it sounded like the drums with the bus compression might have been a little bit over compressed. But ultimately, the production was tight. It sounded like a commercial grade recording that is ready for release. I'm very satisfied with that respect of it. It was nice to know without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. And just before I finish up, good on Fractured Truth for this. It's a big thing releasing an album nowadays, especially an 18-track one. I think it's well worth listening to. If you're watching this in your own time, please do go show us some love via hang on, this is not how I usually do this. I'm going to tell you guys to go check them out anyways via their various, but thank you for watching my review of this album from an act named Fractured Truth, titled Radiopaque. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check them out via their various social medias, and I'm sure this will be on all digital stream platforms as of March 15th, so it should be good now. And stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.